Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Slice of the Reef, our new podcast that demystifies the art of saltwater fish keeping. My name is Billy.
And I'm Giancarlo, aka Banana or Fishy Fish. We're going to be your guides today into the amazing world beneath the waves, but also in the box in your living room. Crazy, huh?
Enjoy and easy reefing.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Slice of the Reef with your favorite co-hosts, Banana, Billy, and Inept. Our real
Hi,
names
I'm
are
Inept.
Giancarlo.
Nice to meet you.
Do they get to vote on their favorite co-host?
That would cause too much aggression
Nah,
between.
it wouldn't even be close. I just can't tell you who they vote for.
This is true.
But it's one of us three.
It's definitely Billy.
It's the bot. It's the bear bot.
No,
Yeah,
it's true.
It's the bear bot. The bear bot's my favorite one.
Craig Bot does a great job. I don't think anyone celebrates Craig enough.
Craig's
By
always
the way,
been there.
the bear avatar that's listening with us, it says recording. That's a robot we use to record.
Yeah, that's how
His
we get
name's
it on.
Craig, and he's great at his
Everywhere.
job. Today, we are talking about fish aggression. Everyone has had this plague them at one point or another whenever they add at least one fish to at least one other fish or invertebrate. So we're going to talk about that a bit today, break down how you can avoid it or at least plan around it. And we've all experienced some fish aggression in our tanks. What have you guys experienced in particular? Like anything really gnarly?
Well, I mean, I think that there are a couple of the famous fights, right? You're going to see the tank gangs.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of people will keep one of a given kind of fish, like dwarf angelfish. Often this will happen because tanks, compared to the ocean, are relatively small. Right, so there's nowhere for the fish to get away, and it's kind of locking a bodybuilder in a bathroom, right? Like they've got nowhere to go. There's no gym, so they get a little bit crankier than they normally would, right?
Yeah, the ocean's like, what, 300 gallons
At
versus
least.
your 15-gallon tank? So yeah, it's quite a downgrade.
Yeah.
It's at least 300, maybe a little bit more, but not much more than that.
So, I mean, one of the first things that you definitely got to respect is tank minimum size when it comes to especially the big swimmers. Definitely having enough space is going to be step one. But I guess there are different kinds of aggression. We should talk about what aggression even looks like.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about like how to recognize the signs of aggression. Like how do you know if your fish is just not doing well because of aggression or if it's another issue? But before we get into that, let's talk about the types of aggression. One of the most frequent ones that you'll see will be territorial, and that's usually seen with clownfish or damsels. What will happen here is like a certain fish, you see it much in bigger tanks than smaller tanks, but you'll how do you word it? You always see it in smaller tanks, but you'll see why, or like you'll see the fact that it's territorial in bigger tanks because of the fact that fish have other room to swim in. In smaller tanks, it just looks like aggression, right? You put your hand in 20-gallon, clownfish swims up to you, nips it, you gotta go away. Put your hand in a 20-gallon, damselfish goes up to you, takes a bite or two, you gotta go away. In a bigger tank, like in a 300, in my tank, right, I see the act of it or like the reason being territory because the fact that like damselfish will only nip fish when they come into the territory. So while in a smaller tank, the entire tank is a territory. In the bigger tank where they all have like 1 square foot of space or area that's a designated area, you'll see that as another fish comes into that area or as another competitive fish, right? Because damselfish won't mess with some fish, but they'll definitely nip the crap out of the damsels.
One of the things that I really like about larger tanks and territorial aggression is that it kind of gives rise to a lot of the behavior that you or I might see as interesting or endearing. Right. Like, so when you have a goby, the goby will lay claim to about a 2 foot by 2 foot square in the tank. And for a lot of people, that's everywhere. If you have a bigger tank and you have multiple gobies, having them sort of encroach and manage and negotiate and sort of their OCD cleaning and like moving rocks around and setting up their little borders of their little territory, that behavior is them sort of marking their territory. And in a small tank, that aggression is consistent and constant. You don't really see them, set their boundaries and force to behave, incurring on the boundaries. So territorial was one of the more interesting kinds of aggression, I think. But certainly in small tanks with clownfish or damselfish hitting, and even if you're in their space, when you reach in to do tank maintenance, they can, draw blood. Like I have a maroon clownfish that my sister
Oh
dubbed
God.
Maleficent killer of men, because I think we tried for 3 years to get this, it was a lightning maroon confish, to try to pair this lightning maroon confish off.
Oh no.
But yeah, no. So territorial aggression can really be interesting, but it can also be, problematic.
I have a Springer eye damsel, which I was told are really chill, and they are chill to the other fish. But when I put my hand in that tank, anywhere near his side of the tank, I start getting little bite marks on me. It's really cute. It doesn't actually do damage because they're tiny,
Well,
tiny.
I really like the Springer eye damsels that are kind of chill in a large tank too, because they'll make little gravel pits, and then they'll all like sit in their little gravel pits and sort of enforce their little spaces.
Oh.
And in smaller tanks, you don't really see that as much. But I guess another kind of aggression that you'll see is sort of social aggression, where you have multiple fish of the same kind, and they're trying to establish who's boss, right?
Yeah, pecking order. You see this a lot in tanks. And this is the kind of thing that you'll notice that, like, earlier introduced fish will, and we'll get to this later, but like fish that are introduced this previously that already have their area or like that are already king of the tank, they'll show more aggressive than newer fish because they're trying to prove or trying to demonstrate that they are the king of the tank. You see it most commonly in wrasses or tangs. Anthias will do this too. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will miss that Anthias do this, because Anthias are kind of doing this for kind of harem building and reproductive reasons. But they will pick on and sometimes kill each other. Tangs, if you put tangs in, they're new, couple of weeks, they don't seem that aggressive. You put in a new tang, couple of weeks, they don't seem that aggressive. 2 years later, you think to yourself, it'd be really nice here is like coal tang. If you put in another tang, and all of a sudden those two tangs that have been chill for a couple of years, those two tangs that didn't fight each other at all when you added
They'll
them,
go crazy.
like they will lose their minds. So once sort of a social hierarchy establishes, and this is why sometimes you'll add fish of varying sizes, this sort of thing, is to make the social hierarchy a lot more clear, right? But that sort of also falls into mating aggression, right? Like you can build a social group of clownfish, but there'll be one male and one female, and they'll decide that through aggression. And the most aggressive becomes female, and the second most aggressive becomes male, and the rest of them remain sort of, I guess not necessarily quite alpha male-ish. Not to use alpha and beta male for this, but like they're not sexually active, they're not reproductive, they're just sort of pre-males. So like you'll see the social hierarchical like aggression turn into mating aggression quite often. Anthias and clownfish especially.
Mating aggression is a big one. Anthias is huge because you always see the pairs of the groups. Like even if you get a shoal, eventually, regardless of whether you get all females, you'll end up with one or two males. And then if your tank's not big enough or the shoal's not big enough, those two males will kill each other off. I'm not saying will, like guaranteed, but there's a very high chance that they will kill each other off, or there will be more aggression between the two males than if you only kept one male. Sometimes you don't get a choice though, right? Wrasses are also like this. They have shoals, they have groups. And then one will transition. And then after that one transitions, you've got one male kind of dominating as it's the one that will protect the other ones as well, especially during breeding times. But it's also the one that's kind of sexually chosen for breeding. And so that one will specifically try to keep other males from being active or from kind of transitioning in the groups.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
I have difficulty with wrasses in tank environments because often they'll all transition eventually.
Oh God.
So it's a resource limitation for wrasses, and a lot of people try to pair wrasses. But in fish tanks, there's often abundant food resources. So eventually they'll both begin to transition, or one of them will be, male, you'll have one female, and then the female wrasse wants to take a shot at the king. There's plenty of food. They want to go off and find their own female or something, and they usually will kill each other. I think leopard wrasses, you don't see this as much. Like sometimes you can keep a pair of them, but I typically do not recommend pairs of wrasses and even very large tanks, because eventually, even if it's a couple of weeks or years, they'll both try to be male. And it's not like clownfish where one will sit down one side of the tank and the other one will stay on the other side of the tank. It's not like dwarf angelfish where they can actually go back and forth. Once a wrasse starts, then the wrasse is off. I've only ever seen Anthias sort of do this once, where I had a harem of 2 different kinds of Anthias. And the male in, I think it was the sunburst Anthias or the square Anthias, started killing off the other group of Anthias. And
Oof.
then the sailfin tang hit that Anthias so hard that he decided, nah, never mind. And he went back to being a female. Like, I've only ever seen Anthias go back
Oh man,
once.
there's no way.
I've only ever, I think he was just getting started. He was just starting to turn. He was just getting aggressive. And then, like, he picked a fight with everything in the tank. And obviously, the Anthias being an inch and a half, picking up a fight with a 2-foot tang did not go well for him. And he calmed right down, didn't kill anything else. Coloration changed back. He was just starting to show. So I don't know exactly what the documentation is on Anthias, but definitely gender switching in reef fish is one of the biggest parts to concern yourself when you're planning out a long-standing population. Social aggression is going to happen. Territorial aggression is going to happen. Mating aggression is also going to happen. You need to think about how these species are going to work together. There's obviously, resource aggression as well.
Research is a really big one. And that's something that a lot of people don't think about. Tangs are natural grazers, and they will get more aggressive if there's a very limited amount of rocks or if there's a limited amount of algae for them to graze on. I noticed this specifically with my tank. People that know me know I like tangs. I have a lot of tanks. And the reason I go through 4 sheets of nori a day is because if I don't, my tanks will be at each other's heels. Like, they'll be nipping at each other's fins nonstop if I don't feed them. But when I feed them regularly, even at times when the nori's not up, they'll be more relaxed. I mean, there's obviously a hierarchy. The Achilles is the one that kind of takes over everything in my tank. People are usually surprised it's not the soho, which is more, naturally known to be aggressive. But
every time you say it, I am surprised.
Yeah, the soho. No, the soho knows
and then
its
it's surprised again.
The soho knows its place. But the Achilles is the main one. Whenever there's new fish that's introduced, or when they introduce a new tang, right, they'll leave it alone except for during times of feeding. When it's time to feed is when I'll see my tangs get the most nippy at each other. Now, they won't get each other to the point of death anymore, thankfully, because I'm not adding that many new fish. But they will nip each other off. The Achilles will chase would previously chase the purple down and just get them away from the rocks or get them away from the PVC pups that I used to feed. What else will notice was the convict would nip back. The only fish I've ever seen I would actually actively do a 360 and start chasing the aggressor back. The Achilles is at the mercy of the convict. He has a lot of personality to him.
Well, convicts are schooling fish, right? So they're used to infighting quite a lot.
Yeah,
there's a pecking order.
Yeah, but he knows not to mess around with them anymore. He chased them around a few times. The convict chased him around and nipped him back to the other side of the tank.
Yeah.
Since then, the convict does his own thing. Once or twice he'll get challenged again, but that's it. The funny part is the Achilles is like a 6, 7, 8 inch fish, and the convict is like 2 to 3 inches, like max.
Oh, convicts do not hold no guff. Like, the convict if the convict is fat, the convict will fight anybody. When the convicts get skinny, they don't really fight. Convicts are basically my exception to the rule. People will tell you that fat fish don't fight. I told them they've never kept a convict tank.
Convict tank, it will go. It's funny. It's just like watching a damsel chasing down the shark. After the shark, it's like a shark chasing a damsel, and the damsel turns around and chases the shark back. It's just really funny to watch.
I just imagine the convict looking in the mirror one day, seeing how buff he is, being like, "All right, it's time to fucking fight.
I got this.
Time to make my name true."
You got a name for yourself today.
I mean, but also then you have, I guess, the last common type, right, is stress aggression. Like, if you have the tank is too small, there's too many fish in it, diseases, water quality.
Yeah, small space is actually, I was going to talk about the chromis too for the resource space.
Okay, go ahead.
But one thing that people don't consider when they keep chromis, and I'll preach this to whoever freaking lets me, is that people don't know how to give chromis hiding spots. They don't. People love keeping chromis, People will always everyone wants a nice chromis cool. Everyone wants like a nice group or chromis. And there's a lot of reasons we can't do this. The biggest one is it's hard to get a lot of good chromis that won't get your anemia at some point.
Diseases, yeah.
Diseases. But the biggest one is that people don't know how to provide hiding spots. Most fish will be comfortable with a cave or some rocks to hide underneath or behind. Chromis do not like that. And I've noticed that they will actively compete for the hiding spots that they do like. They love branchy, acropora shaped, like just branchy hiding spots is what to live in. And I noticed that after you came by, Chris, after I, trimmed down my colonies a lot, we had some infighting, but that didn't happen as much. What really caused it was we had a bit of die-off with acros because of a water change system that went bad. Anyways, a lot of colonies got cut in half. And after that happened, the chromis started fighting like crazy. We went from 10 to 7 chromis in that time. We had 10, they were fine. We had 10 swimming comfortably, they were in the open. Within a week or two after, we had to cut some of the colonies in half. Because the hiding spots went down, or in my theory at least, is because the number of hiding spots went down, the chromis responded to that to make sure that the available spots were able to match the number of fish that were out in the open.
I actually really like that, thinking about, I guess, hiding spaces as a resource. A lot of people only consider food, right? But definitely wrasses like a particular bit of sand bed, damsels like their little gravel pit, anemones for clownfish, and chromis like their little branchy acropora spot, right?
And they'll fight for it. I mean, if you want to keep 10 wrasses and you only have one like bowl of sand or one corner of sand, you'll eventually only keep 2 wrasses, And I guess the weird, I mean, in the ocean, you see this as like the number of fish will naturally, like a fish culture, right? The amount of fish in like a group will eventually match the resources available to them. We don't have that kind of selection or natural selection going on in our tanks. So the way we see it is, I added 10 chromis, I only have 2.
Yeah.
Why are my fish dying? Well, it's limited resources, limited hiding spots, limited food, limited everything. And sometimes it could be a space issue, right? Which I guess brings us to our last issue that Chris wanted to talk about, which was stress aggression.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be when something is wrong. Like all of us have been sick at some point, or all of us have been dealing with bad environments or had something happen in our lives, and it makes us aggressive or less pleasant to be around. Same thing with tanks, or other fish. Like if it stinks, like if you have dead fish, or you had a fish die, if there's diseases, if there's no space, like this is the fish is stressed. And you'll see this the most, I think, when you add new fish, right? When you add a new fish, you're stressing the system out, right? Like, everybody's sort of the same. Like, all your neighbors, all your, where your newspaper is, you have your routine down, and suddenly a new roommate moves into the house, somebody moves into the neighborhood. Like, if you don't have enough space, now your whole routine is established. Where do I keep my yogurt in the fridge? Like, is he going to touch my stuff? So when you have stress-based aggression, you should know your tank well enough. And this is one of the things that comes from watching your tank so that you know where it's coming from, right? I had a great collection of tanks. I had maybe 7 or 8 in the 800-gallon tank when my pipe burst. And the pipe burst is not what killed the tanks. When the pipe burst and the auto top off ran, the water became super fresh. Like, it cut the salinity of the tank in half. All of the fish made it. Right. I then fixed the salinity issue. All of the fish still made it. For the next 48 hours, my fish beat each other to death because they all got diseases. Everybody got ick. A couple of fish started actually seeing flukes. I was pulling fish out for quarantine. But it's hard to quarantine everything in an 800-gallon tank. It's hard to pull everything out. So all of my losses from when that pipe burst was not from the salinity. It was not from, the swing. It was from all the fishes getting diseases. There was a big change. None of the fish knew what was going on. And so they got very aggressive. And it's not something that, you would consider, but when you shake a box full of big angry tangs, they get to be big angry tangs. And the stress caused them to be very, very aggressive. And I lost about, I think, four of those 10 tangs. Because straight up they were shanking each other. They have little knives on the back of their fins, and they were
Surgeon
just
fins, baby.
straight up attacking each other. I mean, I think that we've talked a little bit about the different kinds of stress and why it happens. So I guess we could talk about what to do, or do you think we want to cover a little bit more of why stress happens? I think we have a lot of anecdotes. We have a lot
We
of
kind of
story
merge
there.
those two segments so we can talk about fixing it now.
All right. So, I mean, probably the most common, or the one that people want to talk about the most, is going to be when you add new fish in, right? Obviously, all of these types of aggression can happen, and if you notice it, like you can address it. But there's sort of a lot of things that you can do when you add a new fish to sort of break up the aggression, sort of preemptively, right? A lot of these other things you can do reactively if the stress is for example happening because you had a freshwater swing. You could still do these things to break up the aggression, but mostly it's when you add a fish. The first thing to do is sort of freak everybody out, right? Like, oh yeah, this is my house. Nope, it's all crazy. You rearrange your aquascape. You move some stuff around. So now everybody's sort of off guard. Everybody's not sort of sure what happens. Because what will happen once fish aggression starts is fish mostly chase if you run.
Mm.
So a fish will start chasing, then that fish starts running. My sailfin tang, for example, is not aggressive at all, most people would say. But my sailfin tang kicks off more aggression than anybody else. Because the sailfin tang, when you put a new fish in, will swim over to the new fish and get huge, right? They'll flash, right? They'll just swim over there and they'll just be as big as they can and as colorful as they can. Like, hi, I'm in charge here. And they won't attack. But what will then happen is all the other tangs will be like, wait, what's going on over there? And the whole tank will rush over to where the sailfin tang has flagged. And then that new fish, that new, participant in the community is now freaked out because he's getting bum rushed by like 10 big foot-long tangs.
I'd freak out too.
And so the sailfin is not aggressive, but the sailfin is the biggest problem. And so when I put a new fish in, I move the sailfin's favorite rock. There's a little rock on the right-hand side. There's a little cleaner wrasse that lives under that rock. And the sailfin tang goes over there and he gets big, and the cleaner wrasse will come out and he'll clean the sailfin. And so because I know that the sailfin, her name is Sally, well, I know Sally the sailfin is going to flag this fish and get this fish killed, I'll move Sally's rock. And Sally will go over there, and then she'll just start pacing the whole tank, going back and forth and back and forth. And then the new fish won't even get noticed. It's an 800-gallon tank. You put in a new fish if they've been coordinating, you've been feeding, they don't even notice. They just come in. I guess more of that if you have a smaller tank size and layout can be a little bit trickier to change, right? You can't really rearrange your aquascape. So
That's
you can
why
add
I recommend everyone make their escapes stable, but modal. So if you have like a modalized escape, not only does it become easier to like spot remove different rocks to treat them if they have pests on them, you can also kind of do a reorg or a reshuffle of the actual layout of things, do a territorial reset without having to literally take your tank apart, because then you run into issues with all that detritus you dislodge. Fish can get stressed by the magical moving rocks.
Yeah,
and
what you do can often be just depending on the kind of aggression that you get. So, like if you have a fish that you're going to add, like you're going to see the obvious signs. There's going to be chasing. There's going to be things are going to bite. Tangs are going to, you'll see the tang swim backwards and sort of like whack him with his tail, right? You'll see what's called flashing, which is where the fin sort of flares up and gets real big, like what I talked about with Sally, right? There's chasing. You'll see them run, 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 run. You'll see this a lot with powder browns and blues. Though, depending on the kind of aggression, the signs of aggression you're getting, and how bad it's gotten, like you can see the fins are getting tattered or torn, like is going to dictate how you respond. When you rearrange the aquascape, when you add caves or overhangs, usually this is going to be a little early on. This is going to be preemptive. Like you're not usually going to go in and change your aquascape because tangs that have been in there for weeks are having a bad day, right? But it's sort of an intermediary thing. Like the first thing you can do, obviously, is feed, right? Like, oh, everybody's chasing, throw some food in there, see if it works itself out.
Easy
The next
distraction.
thing, next thing you can do is, and you know, pellets are delicious, apparently. Next thing you do is, again, we were talking about rearranging caves, you know, adding caves, putting in little overhangs, making sure they have a place to retreat. I would put in a quarantine box, and I would move it up to about 3 inches from the top of the tank. And because when I added in the fish, it would hang out above the quarantine box, and other fish couldn't really get to it from below. So it would sort of chill out, not in the quarantine box, but above it.
Oh, above it. That's a good idea.
Right. This particular quarantine box that I used was full of like rubble and mushroom corals.
So they can't see it.
So they can't really see through it, right? So there's different ways you can add a hide, right? Tangs are really, I mean, there's other little tricks, right? Like, do you have any other tricks, I guess, Banana? We're talking about like hides stuff.
For hides, as far as hide related, not necessarily. I have other tricks that I like to use, but not necessarily the hiding. Mainly because in my tank, if a fish is hiding to the back, right, it'll like what happens is it'll hide and hide and hide and hide, and then just kind of wither away and die.
Yeah,
usually,
making sure they eat. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Or, you know, I mean, sometimes it'll be the kind of situation where like it's genuine hatred between fish. And I've had this issue where when I introduced my Achilles, I had a gold rim tank at the time, and it was absolutely a demon. It ignored every other fish.
That family of tangs does not like that family of tangs. Ericanthus? I'm trying to remember.
There's a feud.
Usually it's in between families of tanks. Zebrazomas will not like other zebrazomas, excluding the Sophin, who's usually a little more peaceful. But I've had a purple go after my black tank. I had a purple almost kill off a black tank. And then when I got rid of that purple, I put in the black tank. I got a purple down the line. The black tank went after a gem tank. Went after my gem when I added the gem after the black tank.
Yeah, no, so tangs especially the same shape, but I usually use mirrors for that. Tangs especially respond well if you just take a mirror and you put it on the side of the glass. Both tangs will run. As they're running back and forth, as they get close up to the mirror, the scared tang, the new tang, will break off. But the aggressive, the chasing tang, will see a charging tang, and they're going to be like, "What? You want a piece of this?" And they'll go fight the mirror.
And then you'll see, because they'll be trying. Well, tangs have a weird aggression thing. But tank aggression is really unique because of the fact that they have a barb on the side. So you'll see them being aggressive because of the fact that they'll be trying to like swipe and cut the other tank with the barb. Yeah, that's what they call surgeon fish.
Yeah. So you'll see
the surgeon fish a couple times. Go ahead.
Yeah. So tangs will back into stuff. But when I put a mirror up, especially for the powder blues, powder browns, he was mentioning the Achilles tang and like the gold rim tangs, all those belong in the same family, and they're kind of the same shape. Like they're skinny, they're kind of torpedo shaped, but they will stay on that mirror. When I put a mirror up, I've had a couple of instances. I had an Achilles, powder brown, and a powder blue, and I introduced the powder blue and then the powder brown, and they just stayed fighting, and I had to get the powder brown out. I added the mirror, and then the blue really just stayed attacking the mirror. Then I put the brown in, couple of days, really. Like the blue just stayed trying to fight that mirror. I took the mirror away. About 2 days later, the brown had already been established, and everything went well. But when I added the Achilles, I got an Achilles that was significantly bigger than the brown or the blue, and they just didn't want to fight. So obviously, you can consider how you're going to add your fish.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Typically, any sort of tang you need to be deliberate about, and sometimes being deliberate will help. Sometimes they just will continue to fight forever.
Yeah,
The
I had
only
this
reason,
problem with warp angelfish. Like they just won't stop fighting. But go ahead, Ben.
the only reason I don't like the mirror necessarily is because it might cause unaggressive tanks that are not a part of the problem to kind of become a problem. I tried it one
Radicalized.
time with what was the fish? I think it was a gem. I think it was when the black tank was chasing the gem. And so I put it wasn't a mirror, but it was like a mirror-like sheet of paper. It was reflection, basically, same concept. But it caused my Mandarin dragonet, which is a fish that you normally wouldn't see as aggressive, to attack the mirror nonstop. And I think it was they're not like tangs. Most fish aren't like tangs where they have a barb and they can sweep to the side and they'll, cut whatever they want to cut. Most fish will be head on. And so that poor thing was smashing its head against the glass, trying to fight its reflection. To the point where I ended up actually removing the mirror because it was like, if I keep this up, I'm not going to have a Mandarin anymore.
Oh, yeah. Dragonets, they lock gills. So he was trying to lock gills with a flat wall.
Yeah. And it's
That's
not
not good.
I mean, other fish will, clownfish will chase a nip. Any fish that nips is basically going to be driving headfirst into the mirror because their depth perception isn't the best. Because they're on the side of the head. So they're not going to be like, oh, this is clearly a reflection. I shouldn't dive head first. They're going to say, oh, there's another fish looking at me. You want to fight? And they'll dive head first into what they think is, the other part of the tank.
Just start throwing punches, right?
That's kind of the reason that I've avoided personally using the mirror. And my hesitation with the mirror is that one specific thing. It'll cause issues that you don't want it to cause. And it might cause other fish distress that you don't want to be kind of distressing.
It is a toolbox, and not every tool is going to work for every sort of fish and personality, right? Food is always a good one, though.
Food's a great one. My best thing to do, if I'm adding a fish directly to the tank from wherever they've been, is going to be at night, lights off, flow on, and just, let it kind of settle itself in. A running theory that I have is that fish can sense each other. They've got, I don't know if it's pheromones or they just smell each other out, but they're able to sense each other in the water. And I've seen this because of the fact that I've put a fish in a completely blacked out exclamation box, and I still had the aggressive fish trying to attack the crap out of it. A fish can kind of sense where the other fish are. I don't know how fish speak happen. I mean,
Magic.
I know how
sharks detect electrical currents in the water, so it may be nervous impulses and electrical
So
currents.
it could be pheromones. It could be that as they're producing waste, other fish are picking up on it because you're not going to stop fish from producing waste.
Your breath smells,
Yeah, so your breath smells. You want to fight. That's usually what I'll do. What I would do. What I mainly do, my go-to is the exclamation box. You put it inside of a box. Make sure the box is good flow because, it's going to be in here for a while. But an exclamation box and then just letting the fish get used to that fish or take out the aggression on the box as opposed to the fish that's inside of the box.
My problem with the box has worked very well for me for an acclimation box. But when you get really up there in tank sizes, you might want to consider migrating to putting it in a divider.
That was my next step. When the exclamation box didn't work or when the fish is too big, right? I took 2 pieces of PVC and I took a mesh, the same kind of mesh that you make a lid out of. And I kind of zip tied the mesh to the 2 PVC and I just kind of put it like a frame or like a divider in the tank. So the fish could sense each other, swim up to each other, but the aggressor would just kind of swim into the net repeatedly without actually getting to the other fish. That was my go-to. That's what that's what I did up until the coral started growing out. That I realized that every time I wanted to do that, it'd mean readjusting all the hammers and moving stuff aside. So now it's either the exclamation box or I'll put fish in the sump and let the fish get used to the scent or the whatever the fish releases in the water of new fish. I throw them in the refugium underneath, the nem baskets and just kind of let them hang out for a week or two. And then I'll put them in the main tank.
Okay. But yeah,
That's
no,
smart.
other than that, obviously feeding. Fat fish don't fight unless they're convict tanks.
Asterisk.
But yeah, also just noticing the fights. Like a lot of this has been about adding fish because that's when they're going to fight the most. But sometimes it will happen. Like for example, when I go on vacations, my tank is big, has a lot of aggressive fish. Having people feed my tank is a significant change in the fish's pattern. I work from home. I wake up, I feed the fish. I walk by the fish tank, I feed the fish. I've got automatic timers, it feeds the fish. I put in nori around lunchtime. At dinner time, I put in frozen, right? So I feed the fish frequently. Professional places like Worldwide Corals, etc., will feed their fish every hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
So changing that can also cause a fight, right? Like if you go on vacation and they're used to eating all the time and all of a sudden food is just coming in on the timers half the time, like they can cause fights. But go ahead, Banana. I'm sorry.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say, what you just said. I mean, and that goes back to the whole resource-based aggression, right? Limited food. They're going to fight for the food. Fish are smarter than you think. They know when the food's coming in. They know when the food's not coming in. If the food's different, they'll stress out. Any limitation of food that there might be, and they'll start stressing out and they'll start showing it, and the behavior will represent it. But yeah, I mean, feeding a lot is huge.
What kind of aggression issues have you guys seen with clownfish? Because I know, aside from the destroyer of men, neither of you guys had
So
any
it does
adventures?
depend a lot. It does depend a lot on the clownfish.
Mhm.
If you get wild caught clownfish, they can be a lot more aggressive and establish a pecking order a lot more. If you get
Mhm.
tank raised clownfish, I've seen them do farms in very small spaces and very high concentrations of clowns if they're about the same size. Like if you're doing a clownfish tank, I recommend you buy all of your clownfish at once. You add them all together at the same size. They will work it out. But clownfish can get a little bit defensive and wild. They like to fight over the premium space, and the premium space that they have decided is whimsical. Like it could be a rock, it could be an anemone. It's just a spot that somebody decided this is my hill and I'm gonna die on it, right?
Like,
Yeah,
oh, someone's fighting for this? I want to fight for it too.
Yeah, no. FOMO has no market cap.
Oh.
That's my spot. Oh, that's your spot. I want this spot. Why is this
Wait a
spot better?
second.
Give me that
Help me
spot.
moved. I want that spot now.
That's so funny. Yeah, that was funny. But another point that he brings up is that like the reason that you want to bring them together is because usually whenever you get your fish, right, you're gonna get it from an LFS, and your LFS usually gets them from one breeder, if not two, right? So you're getting like 5 or 6 different clowns that have been together since they hatched. Whether that creates issues when they pair up or breed or legs or whatever is like, another topic. But these are usually clowns that have been schooling or hareming together since the very beginning, which is like why you're going to have drastically less aggression if you get them all together at once than if you get them sprinkled in, throw it here and there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that when you get clownfish and damselfish and similar schooling fish, your options are 2, and they'll figure it out and they'll fight it out, or several, and it'll spread the aggression out among other fish. This
Yeah.
only works if there's sufficient resources. This is a common problem with chromies, right? Where there just aren't the resources, and so they will continue to kill each other down to 2. And everyone's like, well, I bought like 5 of them when the tank was just starting out, and everybody's just got 2.
And now there's 2, and then you get 2 really big ones, and that's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you do things like one of the things that I love about my big tanks is if you have a lot of damselfish, a lot of gobies, there's actually room for them to set their boundaries up and sort of have those social interactions. Like I can put a dozen dotty backs in the tank and they'll all hang around upside down with their mouths hanging open, which is their sort of threat display, right? And they'll all sort of evenly space themselves around the tank and they'll sort of peek around the rocks at each other. But the groups of fish is very tricky depending on what the resources are, and the resource for groups, especially like groups of clownfish, groups of damselfish, is often a place to hide.
Yeah, fish aggression among territory, I think, which is kind of what we talk about. Territory and resource kind of go hand in hand in that. But yeah, that's usually the biggest reason that you'll see it. The reason that we recommend limited fish, if you're going to have a 10 or a 15 gallon or 20-gallon isn't because you can't handle the bioload. I have no doubt that you could throw a monster skimmer in a 10-gallon and remove any possible potential bioload that you can come from any fish. You could throw a tang in there and it'll control the bioload. The problem is that because of the amount of space that fish want territory-wise, the damsel and a pair of clowns can very easily be at each other's odds, especially if you throw like another goby in there, you want to throw another wrasse in there. And certainly you've got a mix of fish that would normally claim their own territories in the bigger tank, all fighting for the same territory in the small tank. Billy, you have a pair of clowns in that small tank, right?
Yes, I do.
Do you notice any aggression in them or no?
I did for the first couple years. I just kind of decided that they were a pair, which is not how nature works. The female is a captive bred and the male is wild caught. The male actually taught the female how to host anemones.
That's awesome.
Like when I first added her to the tank. And then, so she watched him host the anemone for like a week and then kicked him out. It's like, okay, this is mine now. This is my primo space. And they didn't pair at all. They didn't get along for a good couple years. What I eventually finally did was I added a third clown, much, much smaller. So hopefully, because it was young, but I was hoping the female would think, oh, this one is less fit as a mate. And that ended up working. So they kind of teamed up against the smallest pre-male. And now the pre-male lives in my big tank and the couple shares the bed in my nano.
That's good. I'm glad they're
She was never like destructively aggressive. Like she was never killing him. She was just clearly did not want him in the same anemone as her. But luckily I had more than one anemone.
That's good. That's good. How about you, Chris? Any aggression in smaller tanks or no?
I mean, smaller being 300?
You know what?
How many gallons could a nano tank have, Michael? 1,200?
So, I mean, I find that smaller tanks, you just have to stock really more conservatively because there's nowhere to hide, there's nowhere to run. And if the two fish don't get along, they will kill each other.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so smaller tanks in the 10, 20, 50, 60, 100-gallon range, the dynamics are a little bit different. Like you can only have, one pair of clownfish in like a 10 or a 20 or a 30. But when you get up to like a 40, maybe you can have like two pairs of clownfish. So knowing your stock list is kind of important because it's gonna dictate what you do. But one of the biggest things that you'll see is like a big fat fish that's been in a big tank, and then you either sell it or trade it or send it off to a small tank, and it gets really frustrated with that, and it'll start being a lot more aggressive. And then somebody will be like, well, it was always fine with me. Well, yeah, you kept it. You kept a foot-long tang in a 400-gallon tank, and now it's in 125, and it's just trying to figure out where the rest of the tank is, right?
Yeah. It's like, yo, what's your problem here? Oh, man. No, fish can get nasty for no reason, too. Fish can get really, really mean. I mean, there's almost always a reason. Usually, like 9 out of 10 times, I want to say there's a reason. Sometimes it'll just happen. Nothing you can do about it. But yeah, anything else on this, you guys?
Not that I can think of. One thing you do have to get good at if you are going to start like catching and sequestering and putting aggressive fish in acclimation boxes is actually catching those fish. But that's a whole other episode.
Oh yeah,
maybe
having
just impossible.
Having a bubble trap is very helpful if you're going to be playing those games. I've had to fish Antheus out with barbless hooks before. That is not fun. I don't recommend that.
Traumatizing.
Yeah, no, like I would bait the hook. I would file the hook for the barb off with a Dremel, and I would bait the hook with an amphipod, and I would try to run it by the Antheus cloud to get like the most aggressive Antheus would always try to take the food first, and then you've fished out your Antheus. But that's something that, like I said, I don't recommend to anybody. It's kind of a
do not want to be that Antheus.
Advanced skill.
Sometimes, I mean, the fish is going to hate. Fish are just going to hate. There's nothing you can do with it. And it'll get to a point where eventually, everyone might get to it at some point, but you just kind of got to choose one or the other. I mean, you got to choose the fish that you have with new fish or, between the two aggressive fish. There might be a point where you've got to choose one or the other and just be ready for that. Not all fish are compatible, not all fish are going to be able to coexist. We'd love a perfect tank with every kind of, fish in existence and every kind of perfect fish that can be there, but that's not always the case. That's rarely ever the case, if anything, where every single fish you get will have non-aggression, will have no stress. A fish that's frequently told to avoid because of how aggressive it can be and how difficult it is to curb is a 6-line wrasse.
Mm.
A 6-line wrasse, no matter what you do, sometimes there's just not much you can do with a 6-line wrasse because it'll get nasty, it'll chase. And sometimes no matter how much you try to curb it with hiding spots or with acclimation boxes, it'll eventually become a menace. And so eventually the 6-line wrasse is going to have to go. Which sucks. It's a very beautiful wrasse. It's a very cute, like small, nifty wrasse. But, nobody wants to make that call. Nobody wants to be in that position, but it just sometimes happens eventually, unfortunately.
Yeah, in general, you don't really need a 6-line wrasse.
Nope.
All the pests that it can quote unquote handle can also be handled by other more docile wrasses or just by maintenance. If you really like the look, but you don't want an aggressive 6-line in your tank, pink streak wrasse has a very similar look and is the complete opposite of a 6-line. Total sweetheart.
Beautiful
Albeit
fish, yeah.
much harder to find.
Much harder to find.
Yeah, some people say 6-line. I've almost never had a problem with them. I know I am the unusual one in the bunch, but I've never had a 6-line start a fight.
They're demons.
Yeah.
They're all demons.
I don't know, man. Some people have that luck, I guess.
Back in the day, though, I mean, it could also be that aggression changes over time or as fish get bred, right? They kind of mellow out. I know royal grandmas used to be known as, and you probably know them as this too, right? Like the nightmare fish.
Mm-hmm.
Like from back in the day, they were like the nightmare fish to get. They were super aggressive. Royal grandma would destroy everything. They'll bury themselves. You're never going to catch it. Never going to get rid of it. It'll be stuck with it forever.
Yep.
Lately, though, you rarely ever hear that. And I don't know if it's because, because we're now breeding them. They're not as often wild caught, or because they're, maybe it's just the different parts of the hobby that we're getting them from now.
I think it is.
From now.
I think they were mixing the Royal Grandma up with the orchid, the bicolor dotty back. That looks very similar. Because I haven't even heard that about Royal Grandmas.
They used to, like, I want to say in the 90s, they didn't have this reputation, but there was a phase, and I swear it must have been either when the way they were collected or what. But there was a phase in the early 2000s when people just suddenly decided that Royal Grandmas were evil, and by God, they were somehow. But it just as soon as it came, it seems to have gone away.
Yeah, it appeared, and now they're skittish even, right? Like my Royal Grandma's a chicken. It'll hide against anything. My possum wrasse swims up, right, a half its size, and the Royal Grandma dives into the Montepora where it's always hiding.
Yeah.
Weird. Huh.
Yeah. No,
if you're buying a Royal Grandma nowadays, you probably don't have to worry, but just make sure they have a gradient line between the two colors and not a distinct line, because the distinct line is a look-alike that's actually a dotty back, and all dotty backs are assholes.
Dotty backs are the fish that are generally going to mess your shit up. Except for the orchid, but even then, I've seen the orchids be kind of nasty. Dotty backs can get mean, and I mean mean. Some fish you just kind of know to stay away from, right? That's one of the parts that's like recognizing the signs. One of the things that you should know is which fish are going to be more problematic than the others, right? And if you have zebrosomas, your problem will be other zebrosomas. If you have the Achilles, or what's the name of the family?
Like I said, I think they're with the Eracanthus.
Yeah. If you have those, your problem will be other ones of those. Maroon clownfish, almost all the ones that you see, you're going to see more often demon ones and not demon ones. And again, like of all the fish that I've ever seen in the hobby, maroon clownfish are the only ones to have ever bit hard enough to draw blood.
Yeah, just avoid them. They're not worth it.
They're nice.
Cute for 2 weeks when they're babies, and then after those 2 weeks, they're just ugly, mean.
They're
some
cute when
damsels
they're Yes.
Some people say that about the humbug damsel, right? Or the domino damsel, the black one with the white spots.
Those are evil.
Yeah, those are
the full-body damselfish, like the domino damsel, the four-stripe damsel, that shape of body is pretty awful. They'll be
the torpedo damsels will sort of dig in little holes in the ground and stuff. but the big, sort of tall, beefy damsels are
Yeah, the full-bodied ones.
eh.
I don't know if they have a family or anything specific that they're under, but they are.
Damsels is a broad reference anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is fish aggression.
That's your tradition. Let's move on to our myth of the week, right?
Oh, fish of the week first.
Well, myth of the week. Okay, yeah, let's do fish of the week. So
The
today's
myth
fish of the week is an exciting one. Another one brought to by one of the members, and it is something that if you have seen, you will never unsee. The pennant batfish, Platex pronatus. Yeah, you read. The pennant batfish is one of the most iconic saltwater fish, aside from like the ones that you see in Finding Nemo,
Mhm.
because of the fact that it's just so beautifully contrasted on itself. It
Yeah.
is a long, flowy, angelish fin-looking fish that is pitch black, with the exception of orange gold rims, which it's a color combination that you're almost never going to see in the hobby.
It is
It actually looks
so
outlined.
striking. It looks like it's been traced on paper. It's very
Exactly.
tall. It's a black fish usually with a bright orange outline until it gets bigger.
Until it gets bigger. It is, if you ever seen of the ugly duck, heard the story of the ugly duck or a swan, this is the complete opposite of that.
Yeah.
It goes from being one of the prettiest fish in the hobby that, it's one of those things where you'll see it and it'll draw you into the hobby.
Oh yeah.
To being one of the most ugliest things you've seen in the hobby. They don't completely become ugly, but it goes from like a 3-inch tall fish to like a 2-foot tall behemoth.
Oh yeah.
They get big, they get chunky. You see, it's like the thing where you look at it and it's like, damn, where did my fish go? Like
It's a face only a mother could love.
Literally, it loses the beautiful fins. It loses the beautiful black and orange. The black turns to like a gray stripy color. The orange turns into like a yellow. And I'll admit, if you have a something 1,000-gallon aquarium, this would look pretty cool. But unless you're looking for like a public aquarium kind of setup, it's better to look at this when it's young in the store and just not get it.
I wonder why more public aquariums don't just keep like buy like one juvenile per year and then graduate it once it's bigger and uglier to the display tanks.
Like the ocean tank.
That would be a really cool fish to show kids.
It's really cool. Now, a lot of people, the thing with this, sorry, you can press.
When you keep a public aquarium like that, they think a lot about their obligation to the public. Because, for example, when Finding Nemo came out, clownfish sold out.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you keep a very interesting fish, like Banana was saying, oh, this fish will draw you in the hobby. It's one of the most beautiful fish you'll see. Like, often they won't display that if they know that kids are going to go home and say, we want that one. And then the parents are going to go get it. And it's going to be a terrible thing. Right.
Yeah, true. That is why aquariums don't do that. There you go.
No,
My
there's a
idea
lot
did
of
not
fish
stand up to scrutiny.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of fish in the hobby where like
go Banana.
Can I go now? Can I go?
Yeah.
No, you can't.
I can't go. I lost my
star,
this is me and Billy now. Me and Billy, because you went off to, I don't know, get a box from your front door.
At the rock. There's a lot of fish in the hobby that, will get bigger. And there's a lot of like, I don't say this, but things that people don't tell themselves that when it gets bigger, they'll rehome it. When a tank gets bigger, they'll rehome it. When a dropper gets bigger, they'll rehome it, right? The difference between this and rehoming a tank is that there's a lot of people with 100+ gallon tanks that are willing to take your yellow tank or your blue hippo tank or your zebra tank, whatever tank you have, except for maybe a large unicorn. There's a lot of people that are willing to take one when they're growing out or when they get bigger. This will not be the case for a batfish. You're going to get a baby batfish. It's going to start to look ugly. And the only places that'll take them that can even house them is going to be a public aquarium. Because these things get big and they get, I don't say nasty, but they're not even that ugly. I'll be honest. They're not even that ugly.
I have an 800-gallon tank, and I wouldn't want this fish in my tank.
Well, I wouldn't put it in the big tank, mainly because of the fact that it takes up so much real estate. When we're talking about like a 2-foot by 2-foot fish, right? That's like several thousand gallons of display water just for it to look pretty decent.
I wonder if they taste good.
Huh?
Probably. Maybe. Most fish taste good, unfortunately.
Maybe.
A little butter, a little lemon.
But yeah, these guys, they no one's going to want it. You're going to have a very hard time trying to rehome this guy if you get it while it's small and then you try to rehome it while it gets bigger. Because by the time it gets ugly enough or big enough that you want to rehome it, you're going to have to find a public aquarium or someone that has like a 1,000 gallon tank that actually wants this fish. Because when you have a tank that big, it's not like you don't drop in big fish dilly-dally. Because you're more specific about what kind of fish you get because your fish are so big. And when it comes to the big fish, you get big aggressions. And, you're going to have a big-ass net to catch a fish like this if it gets aggressive.
I agree with the big fish, big aggression. I have had single strike kills from really very large tanks.
Very I had an instance once where, and I guess this is an aggression as much of it was a glorified feeding. But one of my favorite fish used to be a sargassum triggerfish.
Oh.
And I've told this story a few times. But I used to have sargassum. My favorite fish. When I set up a new tank, I wanted a sargassum. We got a sargassum. Growing, living, happening at 300 gallon. I was quarantining a few wrasses, right? And these are smaller wrasses. And so when they were done quarantine, I put them in the tank. There were like 4 or 5 wrasses, a Nelkie, a pintail. One was a bicolor, one was a carpenter. Immediately, the trigger reacted like I was feeding it.
Oh.
That's kind of why I don't want to call it aggression as much as it is glorified response. Glorified feeding. It swam up. It took a bite out of the spine of the Nelkie wrasse and it sank to the bottom. Like the fish folded over. I mean, that's how much of a bite it took off. It was gone. It was food.
So
it's like
certain fish, pufferfish and triggerfish specifically, have an extremely powerful bite. And triggerfish they accept a wide amount of food.
Yeah.
So you were feeding
including wrasses.
It was feeding. I basically fed it. It wasn't even an aggression thing. Like I fed the fish.
Very expensive and traumatizing meal.
But yeah, it was pretty. It was a big bite. But yeah, you want to be careful what you stock with. You want to be careful the order that you stock it with. And I guess it kind of brings us to our next question, right? Which it kind of goes against some things that we said, but also not really. And that's our myth of the week. Billy, do you want to take that off?
Yes, I do. The myth of this week is if you add the most aggressive fish last, it won't bother anyone.
Aggressive.
Aggressive.
There we go. If you add the most aggressive fish last, it will not bother anyone. This myth, in layman's terms, in the most basic sense ever, it does make sense, right? Because you wouldn't expect the last fish to be the most aggressive, but that's not always the case.
Especially with tangs or other like wrasses as they change. Aggression is sort of a spectrum, right? It's something you got to watch out for. It's something that could happen when you're not just adding the fish. So a lot of times this is a great suggestion for adding fish, right? Like if you add a bigger fish or a more aggressive fish last, then it won't get picked on as much or it'll scare the other fish away when you add the fish.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's just for Tuesday. If you add a fish, like a full-grown adult 1.5 foot long tang, which would by rights be like a Sohel tang, which would by rights be the most aggressive fish in the tank, and you add it last, it is freaked out, it does go hide. That does not mean that after a couple of days, he might not start fighting, right? So you do have to monitor for aggression. It's a great way to add a fish, but it may not save you from the aggression entirely.
Plus, when you think about it, the last fish you add isn't usually the aggressor; it's usually the victim of the aggression. Now that I think about it, it's like technically it isn't it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, stocking order does matter, right? It's not like you should add your tanks first because you worry about like your other tanks being different, right? It's more so in the matter where, like, if you want to add similar bodied fish, like we were talking about the clownfish, if you want to add multiple clownfish, add them all together. If you want to reduce aggression, if you want to add multiple zebrazomas in the bigger tank, if you want to reduce aggression, you add all the zebrazomas together. If you want to add multiple of the Jenniken or whatever type, what's that again?
Acantharus?
I think that was for all tanks.
There's a zebrasoma, the Acantharus, which is kind of a naso.
Well, naso, it's its own thing. Naso is just for unicorn, right?
Yeah, they usually fight with the
unicorn-esque.
Acantharus, though, like the unicorns and unicorn-esques. But
I mean, like
they're also the
one
biggest.
like the Powder blue tang, the blue hippo. No, powder blue, gold rim, Achilles, family. I totally forgot
I
the
think
name.
I think it's just acanthurus. I'm
Yeah.
gonna look it up. I'm looking it up right now.
Alrighty.
Yeah, that one. I agree.
But yeah, those silver-bodied fish, if you add them together, you're gonna have less
acanthurus.
aggression.
Why are you doubting me?
Oh my
Acanthurus.
gosh.
is like
Google says it.
That's all tangs, isn't it?
No.
Unless it's acanthurus.
All right. It's a genius. That's true.
It's a genus.
Anyways, yeah, if you add similar body tangs together, you're gonna have less aggression than if you added them separate times. If you want to keep a freaking purple tang trio, right? Don't add 2 purple tangs and add the third one a month later and be like, oh, why are my fish fighting? I thought the purple tang that I added last was supposed to be less aggressive. No, dude. Add them all together. Put them all in the same tank at the same time.
It does take a little planning, and sometimes you have to save up. If you've got a big tank and you need like 6 zebra soma tangs, getting them in and out can be a project.
I thought of something to
it's
add.
worth doing. No.
So if you're worried about fish aggression, for example, if you're adding a tang to another tank with a tang in it, don't add it to the tank full fat. Just add it to an acclimation box and trying to see how they react to each other. Because the moment it's in that tank, it's a lot harder to undo.
I wonder if someone had put that up.
Nobody's ever brought that up.
I don't think you did. Well, you mentioned acclimation boxes. You could cop this out if you said it already.
Aggression is a part of life and apparently podcasts.
Why you got to be so aggressive to me, Banana? I don't understand.
That's a passive aggression,
but it's manageable with the right steps and co-hosts.
It is very manageable. Fish don't get along. Sometimes they'll banter. Sometimes they'll be to the death. Sometimes it's worse than others. You just got to be careful. But yeah, Billy's right. Acclimation boxes go a long way. Adding multiple tanks together to reduce aggression to one specific tank sometimes helps, sometimes doesn't. I added a purple when I replaced my purple and my blue hippo because the previous ones were going after fish. When I added them both together, I added them together to reduce the aggression amongst one specific one, rather than have all the aggression be targeted towards one of them. It kind of confuses the aggressor because, the fish that's going to be causing the aggression won't know which one to go after, and it'll kind of mellow out after a while. Or it'll put one of the other fish. You want to be careful. Okay. That's why acclimation box is the way to go. Better to have a fish in acclimation box and then, release it than it is to have a fish in your tank right away and then not know what the hell you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. Any other stuff we had to talk about?
Any questions of the day?
We had...
Yes.
Go ahead.
2 of them.
Yeah, we had 2 questions. Quarantining chromie individually, one by one, and none of them have uranoma. When you quarantine chromis, you can do them all together. You can do them separately.
You got to read the question first.
Okay, question.
You can't breeze over the question because the audience cannot see the question we're reading.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a visual medium.
On the slide.
It's so aggressive in here. Question. If I QT chromis individually, one by one, and none of them have uranema, then that should prevent it, right? So the question is about preventing uranema.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, uranema is a parasite, right? If there's no introduction or if it's not introduced, it's not really going to be in your tank. If you don't introduce ick one way or another, you're not going to have ick in your tank. It doesn't just come develop. I'm not saying that if you don't introduce I'm not saying if these fish don't have uranema, you don't have uranema, right? You could introduce a chromis and they won't have uranema, and then you introduce a rock or a fish with uranema, and then boom, your tank has uranema.
I was thinking they were asking about consecutively or at the same time quarantining a bunch of individual chromises in like 5-gallon tanks each.
Yeah, you don't have to quarantine them all together. You can add some now and add some later. Do them in sequence. Do them. Yeah,
and that's what they're asking is if you quarantine another batch of chromis and they don't have uranema, like you clear them through whatever period of time you need to watch them, are you preventing uranema from entering the tank?
Well, yeah, because you're not introducing it to read off fish. If there's no uranema introduction, there's no uranema introduction.
Yeah.
No, but parasites don't just appear.
And the second question is, they know it's Slice of the Reef, but will we ever do a freshwater episode, or is it all specialized for saltwater?
We don't really like freshwater here.
Hey. I think this is a good question. I don't know that
Yeah.
we have too many people who would have guests for freshwater. I think maybe some planted or some CO2 stuff. We could do a freshwater topic.
So
Yeah, we
here's
can
the
do a
deal. We
topic down
could
the road.
stoop to that level if the
Listen,
appetite was right, but we
so
don't. We
aggressive.
cannot commit to a freshwater stoop at this date.
So
However, if
aggressive.
you continue to listen for at least 3 years, then maybe we just might do a freshwater episode just to appease you. You don't know.
Okay, so because you're being so aggressive, you're gonna sign off, and then I'm gonna read you this fish name.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
What's the fish name?
The fish name for tangs. It's class Actinotergiae, Acanthiformis, Acanthuridae, Acanthrus. So yeah, it's all the way up to order, family, and genus are all Acanthrus. So when you say, oh, they're all Acanthrus, well, yeah, that is the family. But inside the family, there is a series of different genus.
What's the one called for the Achilles and the hippo? No, Achilles and the butterfly.
Well, the hippo is Paracanthrus, but everything else is Acanthrus.
And the Achilles.
Yeah, they're
So Dory is
Acanthrus.
its own clade. Is that what that is? Paracanthurus?
The subfamily Acanthurinae. Acanthrus.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's the designation. You've got the Acanthrus, the Tenacanthrus, which are the toothy, the Paracanthurus, which is like the blue tang, the Zebrasoma, which is the flood. But yeah, no, the powders all belong to Acanthrus. Like I said.
That's such a cool factoid if you're a huge nerd. Thanks for providing that factoid to all the huge nerds out there.
Zebrasoma is the oldest subgenus of Acanthurus.
Oldest? Like longest since it was named?
Yeah.
Gonna be aggressive with you.
I think so maybe someday we'll do a Slice of the Reef episode on freshwater. Maybe like season 8 or 9 or 25.
But we're not super good at it, and we're not going to have a lot of cool stories to tell. Maybe we'll have a cool guest star that's freshwater, and they can talk about it.
If you did want to become more relevant, you could always go saltwater as an alternative.
God. We're such assholes.
Why are you being so aggressive?
I'm sorry. But yeah, that's our subject for today. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I hope you guys are enjoying it.
Yeah. Just remember, don't throw hands and easy reefing. Thank you for listening to another episode of Slice of the Reef,
your number one podcast for all things fishy, with your hosts, Giancarlo and Billy. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else that podcasts are held. That way, you'll never miss an episode. If you want to be a part of our podcast, join us on discord.xyz/Slice of the Reef, where we'll be recording in front of a live audience. We also give you a moment at the end of every episode for a live Q&A session, and we're very interactive with our fans. So we'd love for you to join. You can also check out our website for articles, guides, calculators, and information on our upcoming episodes at sliceofthereef.org. Hope to see you guys soon.
Farewell and easy reefing.